I'm gonna ask DALL-E what their favorite memory of a main street is, just to get you in the mood to talk about your main street memory.
Certainly. Main Street typically refers to the primary street in a town or city, often the center of activity and local commerce. It's where you'll find key businesses, cultural landmarks, and public spaces. Main streets are designed to be accessible and inviting, often serving as a hub for community interaction and reflecting the town's character and history. They play a crucial role in urban planning, balancing functional needs with aesthetic and cultural values. This concept is foundational to discussions about city design and community development.
I think this was supposed to be the other question, is what is a main
Certainly.
street? Another thing, and this was something I saw when people registers to talk about the biases and limitations of this tool. So what biases or limitations should we be aware of when interacting with DALL-E? And this was the response.
Indeed. Keep in mind that as an AI, my capabilities are shaped by the data I was trained on. This means if certain subjects or styles are less represented in that data, I might not reproduce them as accurately. Also, the data can carry biases from its original sources, which can sometimes show up in the images I generate. While I strive for creativity and accuracy, it's always good to approach our generated content with a bit of critical thinking, especially when it comes to cultural and social sensitivity. Let's navigate this digital art world together, with both its wonders and its imperfections.
Okay, thank
Indeed.
you. I don't know why it plays twice. I asked if DALL-E can save our main streets. I don't know if people are interested to listen to that or not.
You probably think so.
He was very optimistic.
Yeah. I would be too. As an AI.
So just to give time for the other activity, I'm just going to ask DALL-E to give some closing remarks before we engage directly with him through the prompts, or with them.
Thank you all for engaging with me on the important topic of main streets. Remember, the beauty of city design lies in its blend of functionality, aesthetics, and community values. As you move forward, consider how main streets can be more than just thoroughfares. They can be vibrant, inclusive, and dynamic spaces that reflect and enhance the community's character. Always think creatively, challenge norms, and consider the impact of design on people's daily lives. Use the images and discussions we've had as a springboard to share your story and find solutions. Your perspectives and contributions are vital in shaping vibrant and sustainable urban environments. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep envisioning the main streets that can bring communities together. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your learning and creative process, and I look forward to engaging with you directly throughout today's session and the next 2 weeks.
I don't know.
They're not like very modern.
I had a bit of time to just adjust that one, but you have a lot of options. So what we're going to do now is the second team activity, which we want to bring our main streets to life. So this activity is meant to make you think about a main street that you relate to. And I'm just going to show the instructions here so you have it. So how can I zoom in? So the first part is I want you to take 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes to think about a main street. So now, we have a sense of what a main street is based on what we talked about earlier. I want to know what main street comes to mind when you think about main street, and something that holds special significance to you. And it could be some place you visited or your hometown, and I think some of you already elaborated about that. But using the post-it notes, I want you to just take 5 minutes, think about a main street, say, where is it located, and try to think about 4 things as you're writing down your idea about Main Street. The first one is the story part, like why is it unique to you? Why is it special to you? How do you describe the atmosphere of the street? The other three are basically city design concepts in terms of what's the function of that street. You know, what kinds of activities are taking place? Is it like people are shopping? Are there festivals? Are there commercial and non-commercial activities? People live there. Also think about the form. If there's like specific physical features on the street that makes it unique. So if there's a particular landmark or a street layout that makes it interesting in terms of being pedestrian friendly. And then the structure of that main street, how is it organized? How are the buildings and the road and public spaces mixed together to create that environment? And that's the reason for that is to help you detail your prompt. So like you're thinking about a main street, you could ask ChatGPT, just show me a Montreal main street and you're gonna get something. But what we're gonna do here is try to develop our own and then use that information to put it into ChatGPT. So I'm gonna give you, do you guys want a break before we continue to have coffee? Or are you?
I think people were kind of grabbing.
Okay, that's good. I think if we want to get the chance to do some prompts, I think if we keep going and I mean I'll be free flowing. So on the post-its you can write down the information, and I'm gonna start installing. There's some computers. We have two right now that are connected. We'll connect the other two.
Can we reference more than one main street that we connect to?
Sure, yeah. Sorry to interrupt your conversation. Sounds very interesting what you're talking about, but you thank me later when we get to the prompts because I just want you to get the chance to put your prompt into practice and see the results. So in this part of the activity, I just want maybe a spokesperson or someone in each group just report at a high level what were the different main streets reported, and if there's anything that emerged in terms of being interesting to include in prompts, or something that surprised you, or things that you found could be interesting to include eventually in a DALL-E prompt. So once you talk about it, and we can take all the main streets identified and we can put them at the different groups, just to get a sense of where these places are and what people described as being main streets. So who wants to give it the first, who wants to go first? Okay.
I'd like an industrial main street from the early 20th century with a lot of small businesses.
Okay.
Is that a prompt?
Yes, you can put that prompt exactly and you'll get actually a good result with that.
Is that, okay, was that what you were going?
Well, it's, just basically to get a sense of like a main street, keep that in mind, and that's what we're gonna put in the prompts later.
Was that, but I didn't answer your question.
You don't, it's more, so one of the things about using the prompts is if we add details on what's happening there, then you get more more precision, something closer to what you're thinking about versus what you're gonna get by default. So if you test that prompt, you're just gonna get, you know, a general thing. But if you were to start describing what people are doing there, or the types of stores, and the more specific you are, the more you'll get out of it. Anyone want to share this table? Apparently in Texas there's no main streets, I hear, so.
Okay, there's only one city that has theirs, Austin. Oh, I guess I have the mic now. I get to complain publicly. So the one that I selected was just Mass Avenue, and the thing that I literally put here was like, it's the only one that I know. Shrug face emoticon. Um, I guess one of the things I really appreciate about Mass Avenue is that it has mixed use commute forms. So like the number one thing for me that I appreciate on a daily basis, and I literally have to thank my life for, is that they're separate bike lanes and they're usually protected by some kind. It's not just painted, though for most of it is painted, but it's helpful to have it at least separated because in Texas, like again, the only form of communication is like cars, and you can't do anything unless you build like several square miles of parking space. So that's something I appreciate greatly. The only place in Texas that actually does have a main street is someplace in Austin, but I haven't been there in like 4 to 5 years.
Thank you. What about others? And
I guess like the more touristy slash like fun places in Texas are just like Austin and San Antonio. There you could just like reasonably walk, but anywhere else, like I'm from Dallas, and anytime anyone asks me like, "Oh, where are you from?" I usually say not the interesting part, because like there's nothing to do in Dallas if you don't have a car, which sucks.
what about the other people around the table?
Wow. um, yeah, Lynn talked about Ho Chi Minh City. Perhaps you could support.
I'm very curious on like how close this DALL-E can generate the main street in Ho Chi Minh City. So it's called Nguyễn Huệ Street. It's in the center of Ho Chi Minh City. So one side is the city hall, which is in French architecture, and the other side is the main river of the city. In terms of story, in terms of the story of this street, it's very special in terms of this is like the most crowded and most socially mixed street in the city. It's very vibrant, very colorful. It has diverse street activities. When people have festival, they celebrate here. They have major sport events. So cheering the national team, they gather here. Function, same, very mixed functions. People eat here, they shop here, they're walking here, they do street performance here, celebrate main events, or festivals here. In terms of forms, it has historic buildings, offices, ground floor commercial. They're very specific building which is iconic to this place, which is it's an old 70 apartment building.
Okay.
And all of the apartments were converted into mini shops. So this is like what the main street.
Yeah, keep them in mind. So like it's good that you divided them in form, function, because you can write those in the prompt and see if it's like it relates a lot to what you were thinking about the festivals or the specifics about these shops. I'm curious to see if you get that result.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in my country, there is something a little bit different. We used to have a main street, and it was very crowded because it led to main services and led to the historical city of Sana'a. Sana'a city is one of the UNESCO heritage cities. It's 2,500 year old architecture and ancient cities. It's very unique and fantastic city. So because of that, the rent of shops around this city in the main street the rent was very expensive and high.
Okay.
And to reduce the crowds in this main street, the municipality made the intersections underpass and overpass. And this reduced the crowd so much. The street became less crowd, and then the rent became very less. So private sector exploded. They made a lot of problems because their investment went to the ground. Before it was very, when it was crowded, the rents were very high, and now they are very low.
So when you're gonna talk about your main street, you're gonna represent how it looked in the past before those changes.
I will try to have pictures.
Okay. Maybe I can give like 1 or 2 examples, max 3. So either a person represents the whole group, or they just talk about one. Will and yeah. Well, both of you, they both get the chance.
Okay. Yes. What I would really like to see in the results is more humans and more relationships and interactions between the characters, because a lot of the times there are no humans in in these cityscapes, and if there are, they're very sterile. They're shopping or walking very stiffly. But I would like to see, you know, an old man yelling at some children, or you know, someone tripping, or oh yeah, I guess here you have the. But
This one was so specific about what people were doing and talking to each other and smiling, and they even described the ethnic background.
That's interesting. Yeah, I would like to see more of this. You know, more of the activities that you might expect. You know, my particular main street was in Algeria, in a very very busy plaza, and you see all manner of activity there. You know, not just walking or shopping, but exchanging currency, haircuts, shoe shining, etc. So things like this that make the, I don't know, the main street dynamic and active is something I would like to see.
Is it in Algiers?
Yeah, in
Okay.
Algeria. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. And Will?
I tried to mix all of ours together based off of the categories. So I think we're all looking or envisioning sort of a main street that's in a dense city area. It's has a mixture of pedestrian and car slash micro mobility, so like mopeds, etc. Traffic. There's street vendors and street food. None of our main streets were had a modern sort of type, like building typology aesthetic.
Okay.
And almost all of them were arteries between like two large squares or plazas. So they were like connective sort of arteries. And they were local destinations that, in addition to having sort of like the vendors and market capabilities, also had like services, like either municipal or legal or some other sort of service that local folks would need. Although for a number of ours, they've become a little bit more commercialized through like initiatives, and so have replaced some of the brick and mortar
Okay.
with like chains.
Yeah. But that's good to give like specifics, the types of stores, but also what people are doing there. If you specify the person's identity, or like you can say on this side of the street, there's these two people talking and they're smiling and doing this, or it's part of a festival. You know, you can get that kind of prompt, but just very detailed. But one way to work around it is to kind of ask ChatGPT to elaborate, and when you elaborate, and then you use that as part of the prompt. So
one of the things that we kind of talked about was like 3/4 of us kind of had main streets that were not Western, or very heavily with like an aesthetic or like lifestyle of the global South. And so I'm curious about ChatGPT's ability to like represent that, like that sort of epistemic view of a main street versus like Cambridge, say, view of a main street, and what that means and what those features look like.
mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. But
So yeah, we were discussing, I mean, I had this initial thought that the main street is more of a Western description to this typology of street, and we were discussing that it's in Europe and in the US, but speaking about countries and cities in the global South, so I come from Cairo, and we have different types of what we can call main street, which could vary in their size, in their function, and in their location, because we have more of a mixed type neighborhood or areas where you would find like commercial streets which have more food and beverage type of activities with sidewalks and extensions and street vendors. Or one example, like Will was saying, it's a main artery and it has different types of administrative, commercial activities, services. It connects two main nodes and has more vehicular activity versus another which has more of a pedestrian activity. So this type of differentiation or definition in terms of what a main street would be looking like or how it can be defined in a country in the global south may be a bit different from what we see of the main origin of the term, which is a more Western perspective, I think, to the main street. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting, that aspect, because it feels like maybe Canada, US, UK have similarities, but it's not consistent across each country. And in Paris, they have like a different category of streets, which they kind of protected from big commerce. So it's very cultural, but I think it's a very Western concept that, at least here, living in North America, like you feel like you need to do something about it because that's where people connect and where people go. I can't say the experience, living in the Middle East is the same. It's a weird hybrid sometimes between car-centric and pedestrian. Big shopping malls.
It's a weird combination, or that they're just on top of each other in the Middle East? In a way that, like, they're not quite. I mean, that's my experience, at least, in those regions. Is that
Yeah, shopping malls are like the main streets, basically. Heat, like, because it's so hot in these places, you need air-conditioned places, and they just keep building these like enormous shopping malls that have everything there, and that's where people go.
I was thinking about in Mexico, it's the Zocalo, this main square.
Zocalo, yeah.
So I don't know. It's not that
Oh, yeah.
plays its function, but it's not necessarily a thoroughfare.
We have someone from Mexico next week joining us who's gonna talk about. Oh, okay.
So, but I think it's completely different from the idea of this main street because, like in the Zocalo, you don't have a bank, for instance. It's more like a place to go and stay and like probably go to visit or go for a cafe or go for the cathedral church or go to see the murals. But it's kind of different from the concept of the main street. However, are you familiar with Mexico City?
Yeah.
My main street was the pedestrian street that goes from the Zócalo to La Alameda, which is like where the Palacio de Bellas Artes, the Palace of Fine Arts is, because that street has kind of these features. Also, it's very specific of Mexico Historic District that you have streets that are only of one product. So like if you want to get your wedding dress, you go to one street, and that street is packed of shops of wedding dress, and it's the same. Like you cannot go like go for groceries, and no, it's like this street specific for one type of product that you want to get. So it's different. Of course, it's not like this. And there are another neighborhoods that are kind of, but not exactly.